Hej alla Richard Metal-fan här, girl and gammal skolalbum musical. Bring you guys a brand new or old school album review. And you can definitely tell I introduced my video in Swedish, but and you can tell we're going to be looking into one of the best bands in the whole like Gothenburg sound, and this album has turned 20 this year today, and I just didn't even realize it, so I figured why not cover this album. And as you can see below the title, today we're going to be covering Clayman by In Flames, the band's fifth album released on July 3rd, 2000 through Nuclear Blast Records. Now, this is the band's fifth album following what a lot of fans would consider to be one of their best albums, Colony, which came out a year prior in 1999. But with this album, Clayman, man, this album, I feel like a lot of people would neglect it because it is kind of like grouped with sort of like the albums that would come after this, like Reroute to Remain and Soundtrack to Your Escape and Come Clarity and shit like that. And this is pretty much what a lot of people would consider it to be sort of like the beginning of the band's sellout phase. But that, like, you could definitely tell like it's still melodic death metal, but you could definitely tell there's some like small like little bits that are gonna would later foreshadow to what to become next with them going into more of the alternative metal style, but still retaining the melodic death metal in them. But this album, I still think it's a pretty good album. It has a little bit of stuff I feel like they could have done better, but it's still great. So one thing to note is Anders Frieden's vocals. Like, he does a great job with the vocal department, just like his shrieks in there. I feel like this is pretty much him at his prime. The guitar work from Bjorn and Jesper is pretty great. Great, just like the riffs that they come up with, there's just tight, and just the leads, and like the whole melodic death metal is pretty seen, especially the Gothenburg, like taking sort of um sort of like just traditional like old school death metal from Tampa, mixed in with sort of like Swedish folk, like, or some like instruments or like the melodies that are used with Swedish folk, incorporated with just some like just straight up like classic heavy metal like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and together we got In Flames. And yeah, but just the guitar work is just really great. Bass wise, Peter Iwer's bass is pretty audible. And the drumming from Daniel Svensson is pretty great. So yeah, I'm pretty much rambled on for 2.5 minutes. So let's just dive into this album track by track. Now, starting things off is Bullet Ride, which just quickly just gets you right in with just a really great thrash style guitars, and then the drums kick in, leading to kind of like a clean guitar part, which kind of makes you wonder who is this band. And then a cleaner yet recognizable voice comes in of Anders. I feel like Anders, who does more singing than growling on this album, and then the song just explodes, and you're just me with sort of like a catchy melodic riff in there. And this overall, I feel like the song sort of like goes between clean and heavy and light and dark and just calm and insane. Then we move on to Pinball Map, which right off the bat, the song is just ferocious with some really great guitars and pure aggression. And this song is pretty much known for like a meme, but like there's like a lyric saying "who was sent to glorify," which somehow a lot of people would mistake it as saying like Homer Simpson couldn't fly. But yeah, but overall, it's a really great song. It has some really great chorus and real great drum fill and some aggressive singing and just some really insane guitar work. It's a really good song. One of my favorite In Flames songs. Then we go into Only for the Weak, which has a kind of like a very interesting synthesized guitar riff. Then it just grabs you by the face, and the guitar solo just fits in so perfectly, and it's just very outstanding. And I love like the blend of like aggression and tranquility is just really just amazing in this song. Then we go into As the Future Repeats Today. It's one of the heavier tracks from this album, but it's very catchy. And the only little gripe I have about it is the sort of like the lack of melody, which might disappoint some of the old school fans. But I think it redeems itself with a guitar solo in there. It's really great. Square Nothing, which is just a minute long clean guitar intro which starts the song, and then it's just met with just a catchy chorus and an interesting solo and breakdown. But I just feel like the song doesn't like get to me as much, and it's probably one of my least favorites of this album. Not to say that this song is not this album. That can't even speak today. Not that this song is bad by any means, but it's just pretty much one song I would really just listen to regularly. Moving on to the title track of the album, Clayman, which is a very interesting song. Starts off fairly mellow, but it becomes one of the heaviest tracks on the album. Satellites and Astronauts. And this song when I first heard it, it's pretty much unlike the band has done I can't even speak today. Day again. Fuck. The song is kind of like very different. That as pretty much the band has done nothing like this before, and just like in the structure of it. And at times it sounds mellow, but it just packs one hell of a punch, and it's just some really great guitar riffs. Moving on to Brush the Dust Away, which is a really great catchy song. It's just some really great nice melodies, and the lyrics of the song are probably the darkest out of the whole album, with the lyrics saying, "Get in line for the pistol magic, just aim and another, but think as I rape your mother," which just sounds really weird. And the solo in the song kind of reminds you of something from the previous album, Colony. Swim has a really great guitar melody in here, which starts it off. It just makes you just go in all. It just continues throughout most of the song. Really great. And then we move on to Suburban Me, which has a very great guitar solo in here, which starts it off at just some nice melodies and are pretty much found throughout the song. And this song features sort of like Andrew's ability to use like different styles of vocals that appeal to like old bands and sort of like get intriguing sort of like mellow voice, and then a very cool guitar solo in the song where the guitarists show off their abilities to shred. And then the album closes with Another Day in Quicksand, which is one of the heavier songs on this album, with the cool harmonizations periodically and sort of like cool lyrics to this as well. Now overall, Clayman is a pretty solid album, but this pretty much marks sort of like the end of like their like melodic death metalness. So you could definitely tell with this album, it's sort of like you could definitely see that there's sort of like a slow beginning to what they would later become with Roots Remain onwards of like experimenting. So if I had to get this album a score, I'm probably gonna give Clayman by In Flames a solid 8.5 out of 10. So yep, that's my review of the album, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about the album, and I'll see you on the next video. And as always, give it metal. Take care.